The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, medicine for these times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Hey, I just wanted to let you know to sign up for my all-new free online series called Psychedelics, Sacred Medicines, Purpose, and Business. You can sign up now. It's totally free. We start September 29th. It goes until October 8th. And in this series, I bring you over 35 of the world's leading experts and authors and visionaries and entrepreneurs in the fields of psychedelics, sacred plant medicines, animal medicines, entrepreneurship, personal development, astrology, tantra, visionary art, science, health and wellness, human design, and more. Be sure to join in. It's totally free. Psychedelics, Sacred Medicines, Purpose, and Business. You can grab the link here in the show notes, and I will see you there. Hello there. Welcome back to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Beth Weinstein. Today is going to be a quick little episode on a common question I get all the time from people who are interested in getting into the psychedelic space when it comes to psychedelic integration coaching, psychedelic healing, psychedelic assisted coaching, microdosing coaching, healing, different forms of healing with microdosing, and generally anybody who wants to do one-on-one facilitation work or anything like this in the psychedelic realm. So I get this question a lot. As you may or may not know, I do a lot of free workshops throughout the year. I am probably hosting one in September. I know I'm hosting a big summit coming up. Please tune in. Psychedelic Sacred Medicines, Purpose, and Business. It's the 3rd annual summit with an amazing lineup of speakers. You can join us. It's totally free. But I do host a lot of workshops. I will be hosting many this fall. They are always free. And one of the most common questions I get is, what do I do because it is illegal? Yes, psychedelics are illegal in most places, at least here in the US. And there are many, many ways around this. Here's the reality. I want you to know that I struggled with this myself for many years as I kept feeling the pull to talk about this intersection of psychedelics, sacred plant medicines, purpose, and business. This is what I was being called to do and talk about, and I was actually being called to create the summit that I am now doing. And one of my biggest fears myself was the legality, the authorities that were going to be knocking on my door, the judgments of people, the fears of what my neighbors would think, like I really thought watch groups would show up at my door. But someone had said something to me many years ago, and it had nothing to do with psychedelics, but he's an old mentor of mine. And he had said, look, no risk, no reward. And the reality is, we all know psychedelics are everywhere. They have now reached all corners of the earth, except maybe Antarctica or the South Pole. But from my experience being in this realm, I've met people in so many countries, and I cannot tell you one country where I've not heard of it being, but maybe I haven't spoken to someone in every single country, but it's everywhere. I mean, there's people drinking ayahuasca in the middle of nowhere in Norway. There's people working with ayahuasca and other psychedelics in Japan. It's all over Australia. It's in Israel. It's all over Europe. It's, as we know, all over the US and Canada. So it's expanding. And there's really, nothing we can do about this. And I believe that there's a reason why it's expanding exponentially. And that's a whole different podcast episode in itself. But really, so that's one thing to recognize is that it's really all around us. There are people doing it anyways, regardless of the legalization and decriminalization status. Obviously, you've probably heard there are a lot of organizations with really great initiatives and lots of funding going towards changing the laws. But as we know, it will probably take a little time. And then there's going to be some gray area and some red tape. And, even the places where it's decriminalized, there's definitely some red tape still, and everybody's trying to figure it out. But we all know it's going to change, and it's changing pretty fast. So I always advise, look, keep your eyes on the future, not on where we are now. And just remember that there will probably be a day in the future where it's a little more normalized, whatever that means, as cannabis has become. So that's one. Two, when you embark onto this journey and you really feel this call to get into the psychedelic realm in some way, and you feel like you really want to bring it to your coaching or your healing or your clients, or work with people one-on-one, or do it in a therapeutic setting. I've actually worked with therapists who are trained therapists with a therapy practice, but know the healing potential of psychedelics, and they wanted to bring it into their therapy practice. But they also realize there is a limited amount of actual psychedelic assisted therapy trainings out there. So there are some underground trainings, there are apprenticeships, and a lot of these therapists have just gone and done their own trainings. So that's happening. But if you're embarking on this journey to help people and assist them in their healing with the use of psychedelics, you really have to ask yourself if you are ready to take this risk. So it's interesting because here I am as a psychedelic entrepreneur myself. I always advise people to really think about what they're most comfortable with and what they're willing to risk. Because the reality is, if you're called to this, there is going to be a little bit of a risk, whether that's judgment from family and friends or the law, right? So you really have to ask yourself what you are comfortable with when it comes to putting yourself out there and sharing this with your clients, and even maybe facilitating it or offering it. So as a psychedelic entrepreneur myself, I always advise people to first determine your own comfort level. Where are your boundaries? Like, what are you willing to risk and what are you not willing to risk? I actually tend to be more on the risk adverse side. So I do believe there are many really good solutions to working with clients without having to put yourself at risk, which is exactly what I do. I personally do not facilitate. I do not tell people where to get anything. I do not introduce people to anyone who sells anything. I keep myself 100% clear of that, which gets me into liability space. And I even have a clause for people who ask me, where can I get this? Or who can I work with? Or where do I find a ceremony? I just send them this post that I've written about my boundaries and where they can call this in using their own intentions and prayers and energy. So I do believe there is a way to get whatever you want with intention. And that's a whole nother episode in itself. So what I do is I advise clients or people who want to get into this business to really think about the alternatives. So you can essentially be a microdose coach and guide someone to microdose without having to give them the actual medicine. Or you can, you can direct them to go find it from someone they know, or search around their local community, or set the intention to call it towards them, and they will find it. Or you can guide them to start growing their own mushrooms, right? Like everybody knows that there are now classes all over the place of how to grow your own psilocybin. From what I understand, it's not that complicated. I have actually never grown it myself. I have been taught how, and I have seen it, and I have been instructed, but I have never experienced it. But from what I understand, it's totally doable, and that's how most people who sell it grow, right? They grow it themselves. So you can instruct one of your client to learn how to grow, and And actually, there's something with that to set the intention and pray and sing and speak to the mushrooms as they're growing for their own inner healing. So there's something about that process I really love, as part of their inner healing and their inner journey is actually growing it themselves. So that is an option, and that puts you out of the risk. And yes, it puts them at risk, but again, that's a risk that they're willing to take themselves. You can also send them to totally legal facilities around the world. So as we know, most of these medicines are legal in countries like all over South America. And again, don't quote me on which countries are legal. I don't know the exact legality, the legality and the legal status of each and every country. But I do know there are centers all over Costa Rica, Mexico, Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, the Netherlands, and Jamaica. And I don't know, we've all heard of this, right? So it's around and it's available. And I know it's costly, that costs more than getting it from the guy down the street, but that way it puts you out of risk. So that is another option. Another thing you can do, which is something I've actually advised a few of my clients on, which I really like. I like this idea because, again, it still provides this really deep journey, but it takes you out of the legal repercussions, is you can integrate a medicine retreat into your coaching program. So if you have some kind of, let's say you're helping someone heal trauma or, find purpose in life, and you're a coach and you have a coaching process, but then you want to give them the experience of whatever it is, an ayahuasca ceremony. You can arrange for a retreat, right? That's a whole nother arm of your business where you're now going to be organizing a retreat. But that is something to consider, where you take a group of people on a retreat. It's maybe a separate price, or maybe it's built into your entire program, or maybe it's like there's a lot of these businesses popping up now where this is their program. It's a retreat with preparation, integration on both ends of it. And then they, it's whatever, like a 4-month program or a 6-month program with one big, 10-day journey in the middle. So I actually really like that model. I think it's actually a lot more integrative, where there's a fair amount of time to prep and then integrate. And it's much more than just the medicine. It becomes more about the overall journey, which in my opinion is actually where the healing is at. The healing is not just through the medicine. As a lot of us know, the medicine is not a magic bullet. I wish it was, because then I would be fully healed by now, and so would you. But this model I really like. As I also mentioned, there is the reality that it is everywhere. So if you learn how to communicate to your ideal clients the right way, which is a process I teach in all my programs, and you really know how to communicate so that you attract in the exact kind of clients that you want to work with, you more than likely will actually get a client who already has their own container for working with the medicine. So maybe they are already sitting in a sacred ceremony with ayahuasca with a group on a somewhat regular basis, or maybe they already have worked with mushrooms, or maybe they have a resource for MDMA, or maybe they are already doing ketamine therapy, but maybe they're not working with an actual therapist. Maybe they're just getting the ketamine from their doctor. So there are many ways around this. And when you have a client like that come in, then you don't need to worry about being the provider at all. And now you are actually working with them in their own process to help them with the preparation, in the coaching and the healing, and then, maybe set an intention before going into a work with one of these medicines, and then work with them on the other side when they come out of it through the integration process, whatever your own process is. And this is something I help you develop inside of my mastermind program and inside of actually all my coaching programs, to help see this in a business that's more than just, like one-time ceremony or a one-time facilitation. I personally do not believe that doing any medicine one time is going to heal or fix anyone in one session or even 20 sessions. I mean, it's like, yes, there are these like incredible healing medicines out there, like the big ones, like Iboga or 5-MeO DMT or, the toad medicine. But even then, it's so much more than just the actual peak experience. The real healing comes through the continued support from you and what it is that you want to help people with. And the key here is to really determine what is it that truly gives people the results. It's not necessarily just the medicine, it's the whole entire journey before, during, after. It's the day to day. I always say it's literally like, what are you doing in this very present moment? And that's where I really encourage people to think more about this business as a holistic psychedelic business, not as, oh, I'm just here to give people mushrooms and sit with them. I personally, and I've said this probably on other podcast episodes, I personally don't even think that's a viable business. I do know there are people out there doing that, but for the most part, the people I know who are out there doing one-on-one trip sitting or facilitation or whatever you might call it, they are usually doing something else. So if you are dreaming of just being a trip sitter and making your living doing that, I highly encourage you to consider the full spectrum of what it means to embark on this psychedelic journey with someone. What is it that you really feel like your client will need to have the real results and to have the true healing? Like maybe it is bringing in other experts. I do this actually inside of my mastermind program where I bring in some experts to teach about things that, yes, I know about, but they know even more. So while I am the main coach of my program and I'm guiding everybody through this incredible journey, I bring in other people to help enhance the overall results and journey of my clients inside of the container of my mastermind program. So that's something else that I encourage. Like, look, if you feel that it would benefit your client to, I don't know, get some somatic experiencing sessions while you help them with mindset coaching, partner up with someone that you have personally worked with that you like. That's what I do. I don't really bring in anyone who I haven't worked with. I only bring in people who I have personally paid myself. So I bring in an astrologer, I bring in a vocal alchemist, I bring in a copywriter, I bring in social media experts, I bring in, friends of mine, people who I've paid money to that have helped me on my journey. And I give their additional support to my clients so that my clients have a better experience, so they get a more holistic experience of growth and evolution, and in the end, get more and better results. So this is also something you can highly consider is partner with an actual legit facilitator who understands safety and who has been doing this a long time, who has a proper process for medical intake, for like making sure everybody's held in the right way and possibly even doing it in a somewhat legal way. Like maybe they're part of a church or maybe they've established a nonprofit church that protects them or slightly protects them. I say slightly because I've heard rumors that it's actually not fully protected in many places. So there are many ways around this, but in the end, it really comes down to what are you willing to stand for? Are you willing to take that risk of potentially having someone knock at your door? Are you willing to take the risk of having a judgment from a family member or a coworker or, friends of yours? Which is a whole other episode, by the way, that I'm going to be doing about the haters, the judges, because that is a huge one that comes up for so many people. But really, you have to come down to what is at the core of your being? Like, what is pulling you and what is it that you really want to be doing? And ask yourself, okay, if I'm not really willing to risk putting myself in these positions, how can I start thinking out the box to provide the support that my client needs without actually putting them at risk or me at risk? And there are many, many ways around it. And I highly encourage most people to think about these alternatives versus, just going and getting mushrooms and giving it to someone yourself. I really try not to judge what's happening out there because, who am I to say what's right or wrong or good or bad? But there are definitely some very inexperienced facilitators out there who just felt like giving people, a ceremony or a psychedelic experience. And I don't think anything's wrong with it, but you have to wonder, like, okay, really ask yourself, are you really ready to do this? Are you really ready to be that person that holds someone in a potentially dangerous situation or an illegal situation or a potentially very re-traumatizing situation? So you are the only one that can truly ask yourself that question. If this is something you're willing to do, that you're willing to risk, and that you're really prepared for and trained for. And if you do not feel like it's the time, then look into these alternatives or get some training. There are different forms of training. Even if you're apprenticing underneath someone or, like really just doing your own deep work on yourself with your own integration and your own preparation and your own whatever other tools and supportive systems that work for you. So I highly encourage you to give this a lot of thought and really open up your mind and, just make sure, and again, I'm not here to judge, but make sure you can really answer yourself honestly if you're ready to put yourself or others in potentially, risky situations, because at the end, you have to do what feels best to you. And I'm definitely not trying to discourage you, but I am trying to encourage you to open up your mind to different ways of thinking and different ways of seeing this. But in the end, a motto I live by with pretty much everything, and this has nothing to do with actual psychedelics or actual business, but really, in the end, it's like no risk, no reward. If I didn't come out of the psychedelic closet and speak my truth, my soul was going to be eaten alive. If I don't speak up and say something about something out there that I disagree with, I'm muzzling myself and I'm holding back my truth. And if I don't come out and really bring to life what is living inside of me, I do believe that it manifests in other ways. Like maybe I'll get sick, or maybe I'll be depressed, or maybe I'll feel unfulfilled for many years. So I do believe that it's time and it's your birthright to really allow what wants to come through and allow your soul's journey to be expressed in this lifetime. So you really have to be the one to ask yourself, what is inside me? What's pulling me? What is it that I feel like is coming out of me that's being called forward? And then you are the only one out there who can answer this for yourself. Do not listen to others, even me, even listening to this, because really in the end, you are a sovereign being who's able to make your free choice. And I believe as long as you do what's right for you and not putting others at harm, you're good to go. So, but only you can really have that honest talk with yourself and truly ask yourself if you're willing to risk it, if you're truly ready and you're not putting others or yourself at any harm, and if it's the right thing to do. And only you can make that decision. So I hope this was a little helpful for you. I dive a lot deeper into this and other topics on my upcoming summit that will be coming out in a few weeks, and inside of my mastermind and intensive program that are launching this fall, and then in all my workshops as well. So be sure, if you haven't already, you can sign up for my free community, either my Facebook group or my email list. I send a lot of helpful advice. There's a free training you can grab on my website. You'll see it right there in the corner under free gifts about how to start and grow your own psychedelic or spiritual healing or coaching business. So please grab that and feel free to ask me any questions. Thank you so much for being here with me. It was wonderful to serve you, and stay tuned next week for another episode. We'll see you then. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to bethaweinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.